Godwin of Vector Communications, and we are part of a team that's being led by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that is conducting the study on behalf of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. The project, as you know, is NGA West, and we are here. This is our last public meeting. We've been to each of the different sites, holding a public open house to present to you the findings from our environmental analysis. And please keep in mind that this is one of several factors that we'll be looking at to determine which is the best site for the next NGA West facility. So tonight you'll hear about the findings from the environmental study. But first, let me introduce to you Susan Pullman from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Susan.
Thanks, Lorna. So good evening. I'm really happy to see such a great turnout tonight for the session. As Laura said, I'm Susan Pullman. I am with NGA and I'm the director for the next NGA West project, also known in NGA as N2W. We're really glad to be back here in the community to share the results of the draft environmental study that we started with the Army Corps of Engineers last December. NGA and its predecessor organizations have been a proud member of the St. Louis community for over 70 years, and we remain committed to a future in this great region. Our purpose today is to get your comments and feedback on this draft EIS. The draft study results, which you'll learn about tonight, looked at each of the 4 sites we are considering in the metropolitan area. And I do want to be clear that all 4 sites are still in contention and under evaluation by NGA. So we've heard various rumors out in the communities, and people think that maybe we've already done a down select. We have not. Each site is very unique, and we will be reviewing these study results along with your comments as part of our process to reach a final site decision by next spring. So again, that's why your comments are very important. It's an important time for NGA, and we recognize that we have a very challenging decision in front of us. Today's draft results, along with your comments, will be reviewed by our team at NGA, along with the Army Corps of Engineers. The draft study did not include an agency-preferred site. We made a very conscious decision to not include an agency-preferred site because we wanted further time to evaluate all the sites, get the results of this draft EIS along with public comments. Over the next several months, we will review and we will evaluate a whole lot of data. We're in the midst of that now. We want to ensure that we are considering every factor that should be important to this decision and to continuing our mission with the success that we've had in the past several decades. There's been some speculation regarding how NGA will reach a decision on the site. I can tell you it will be based on a very comprehensive review of many factors, including our mission, our workforce considerations, security, infrastructure, cost, schedule, sustainability, just a lot of different things will go into the decision, along with the results of the EIS. At this time, we expect that there will be an agency-preferred site announced in the spring. That will be a part of the final EIS that comes out right now, scheduled for March. And then the agency will work with Corps. We will do a record of decision, and that will be our final decision. That will be in the late April timeframe. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We're looking forward to working with the communities and getting the comments and getting the information so that we can continue to support this very important mission that our agency has through a much-needed modern campus in the St. Louis metropolitan area. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll turn it back over to Lauren, who will introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
So thank you, Susan. As Susan just mentioned, there are 3 key points that is important for you to remember. That number 1, all 4 sites are still in play. Secondly, that a decision will be made this spring and not before. And third, that there are several factors being taken into consideration. besides the results of this environmental analysis. So again, no decision made until this spring. All 4 sites are still in play, and this is one of several factors that will be taken into consideration. Now, for the ground rules for tonight, you have a comment form in your packet. It's either blue or yellow. They're both the same. In order to be counted as part of the federal record, we need you to complete a comment form. And you can do it one of 3 ways: writing your comments on that form and turning it in before you leave. Secondly, we have iPads to my right where you can type in your comments if you like to do that. And to my far right in the back is a court reporter where you can have the court reporter record your comments. We will not be taking any questions or comments during the presentation or after the presentation. We will have as you saw before we started this presentation, that we've had several subject matter experts around at each of the boards. So you can ask your questions one-on-one and get your answers for them. The project overview and the purpose is over here. To my right is study findings. To my near left are key findings. And then NGA has a table as well as the City of St. Louis. So please be sure to write your comments, have your comments recorded, because that will allow all of the team, those who are here today and those who are not, to thoughtfully digest and go through each of the comments that you have. So having said that, I will turn it over to Lori Farmer, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to present an overview of the environmental findings. Lori?
Thank you, Lorna. Hi, good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. We really appreciate the public involvement, and again, the main effort for tonight is to get that feedback and input on this draft EIS. My name is Lori Farmer. I'm with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and have been the project manager on this environmental impact statement. We've prepared this on behalf of the National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency, and we've had many contributing partners on this effort. The U.S. Air Force is also a cooperating agency and have provided a lot of invaluable input on this document as well. And we've also had a contractor, CH2M Hill, that has helped put it together. Because one of the sites is located in between 2 airfields, we also have the Federal Aviation Administration as a coordinating agency on this. So as Lorna had mentioned, we do have a lot of subject matter experts that are on the team. They're going to be located around the perimeter, so we encourage you to ask those questions because everybody's going to have a different area of interest on this effort. This is going to be a high-level overview of the EIS. It is a 465-page document, plus appendices beyond that. So, we're going to give a quick overview of the major findings at the 4 different locations and encourage you to provide feedback. So, NGA's mission is to provide timely and relevant and accurate geospatial information in defense of our nation's security. And because of that, they have a location that is currently near the Budweiser Brewery, and it is in need of upgrade to become a modern facility to enhance and perform their current mission as well as future missions. So it's identified that they need a new campus in order to fulfill this mission. And the EIS takes a look at 4 sites that were offered to the NGA, and these are the 4 sites that are in the draft EIS, and they are listed as how they are identified in the environmental impact statement. We have the Fenton site. This is how they're named, and this is the order that they appear in the EIS. We have the Fenton site, the Melville site, the St. Louis City site, as well as the St. Clair County site. So what is an environmental impact statement? We do this in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act in 1969. Anytime there's a federal undertaking or federal funds such as this that would be utilized to prepare a new campus, we have to look at those factors under the National Environmental Policy Act. So because the 4 sites, there was perceived impacts that may be of the effort, of the weight of that would be necessary for an environmental impact statement. That is why that it was prepared, and it's taking a look at the construction and operation of the new campus. So the purpose of the meeting tonight is to share those findings with you all, and then to get your feedback on this. So as Lorna had mentioned, we have several different forums to get that feedback, and again, this public comment period goes till November 23rd. So you can provide feedback in other ways until that date. So let me give you an idea of the timeline and where we are at in this effort and making that decision. The notice of intent was released in November 10th, which identified that we were going to be preparing an environmental impact statement. And then from that point on, many of you may have come out for public scoping meetings last December. We had December meetings as well as going into the month of January, and we offered an opportunity for input at that point. From that point on, we took those comments, that input, and developed our study. And we've been busy preparing that. It was just released on October 9th. So right now, we're in the public comment period. It is a 45-day comment period. You have till November 23rd to make comments on the effort. And then then following that comment period, we take those comments into consideration. There will be responses to them in the final EIS. And then in March timeframe, it is scheduled that the final EIS will come out, and it will announce an agency alternative preferred. There's a 30-day period from that final EIS, and then the record of decision will be also made publicly available. So the document reviews these resource areas. You'll see in the bulk of the document, there's a chapter called the affected environment, which at each of the 4 locations that I identified, it goes through these resource areas, and it describes them, how they are without the campus as is on the sites, on the 4 locations. And then it will take a look in the environmental consequences area, how they would be changed or affected if the construction operation of that campus were to go at that location. So that is the bulk of the document and its contents. So universally, what we found is that regardless of which site is chosen, this is going to be just a lot of opportunity for the St. Louis metropolitan area. There is going to be universally a lot of construction jobs, a lot of construction opportunity. At each of the 4 locations, there would be some traffic and transportation upgrades and needs to accommodate the workforce. Same with utilities. To be able to help with the campus, there would be utility upgrades. And also, regardless of which site is chosen, there would be air quality standards would fall within the regulatory thresholds without further mitigative efforts. Regionally, some of the economic benefits are that 40% of the construction materials would be from local sources. And as far as the workforce, the construction workforce, 85% of that construction workforce would come locally. So what we're estimating, this is anticipated 5-year construction project. We're estimating that there would be 425 new construction jobs, 250 indirect jobs. So that would be, indirect jobs would be an example of suppliers to the construction industry. It would be 670 new jobs from induced labor income spending. So an example of that would be, as a construction workforce would go to lunch, that would be an example of induced labor income spending. So in total, 1,350 new construction-related jobs for the area. So let's take a look at the individual sites. And I'm going to describe them as they are listed in order within the document. In South St. Louis County, we have the Fenton site, which is located along Interstate 44. It's highly visible from the interstate. It is, many of you know this as the former location of the Chrysler automotive plant that was closed. So this location is 167 acres. For those of you that came out during public scoping, the project boundary is actually a little bit smaller than what we offered during public scoping, with the project boundary being, it used to go up near closer to the Merrimack River. So this site still contains a portion of the footprint of the 500-year floodplain. It's about 12 acres in size along the far eastern edge of this property area. So if the Fenton site were chose, there would be some benefits at this location. It currently is encapsulated in concrete. Because it is vacant, we're anticipating vacant land transformation into a new campus at this location. There's also an opportunity for hazardous material cleanup just because of the understanding that it was the former automotive plant. Also just visually and from a health and safety perspective, by providing that campus at that location, there's anticipated visual and healthy safety improvements. So there are also impacts at this site. Because it is a federal building and a federal entity would go in that location, there would no longer be the payment of property tax at this location. So what was estimated in terms of property tax loss to St. Louis County was on the order of $555,000. This is what was estimated from last year's taxes. There's also that impact to the footprint of the 500-year floodplain. The master planning efforts are not identifying any buildings or structures to go in that 500-year floodplain input. It's anticipated if there are impacts, it would be mostly along the lines of utility upgrades or maybe some parking or access. So the Melville site is also located in South St. Louis County. It's along Tesson Ferry Road. It currently exists as the MetLife Office Park. There is an office park there at that location, and it is leased out. It's approximately 101 acres in size at this location. The office park would need to go. Similarly as their site that they are at right now, it would not fulfill the current mission and requirements of NGA. So there would be a loss of property tax at this location as well. A loss of property tax to St. Louis County on the order of $545,000. There'd be needed traffic and transportation upgrades through signalization. And along the southern perimeter of this project area, there is a natural wooded corridor with a stream system down along the southern property boundary there. So there would be impacts to streams. There has been identified habitat. We did do netting for threatened and endangered species, particularly we were looking for bats. Did not identify any, but there would still be that habitat remaining. So there would probably be some construction limitations on tree clearing at that location. Okay, so the St. Louis City site, excuse me. Many of you are probably very familiar with this location. This is at the intersection of Jefferson and Cass Avenue. And as I pointed out with the Fenton site, the project area has also changed on this one compared to where we were with public scoping. And I do want to identify that. During the public scoping timeframe, we did include that southern woodlot, which was the former Pruitt-Igoe, as part of the project area. Through our master planning efforts, it was identified that the campus could be wholly confined within this current project boundary right now, as is. It is 100 acres in size. One of the characterizations of the site, it is within the urban area. It is a gridded roadway network. Right now it's experiencing about 70% vacancy at this location and is part of the City of St. Louis's overall redevelopment strategy. So one thing that is different about this the city site location is that the NGA workforce pays city earnings tax to the City of St. Louis. And if it were to, from their current location where they're at, if it were to go to this city site, the City of St. Louis would retain that city earnings tax, and it is estimated about $2.19 million that would be retained by the City of St. Louis if this site were chosen. In regards to the land use, there would be an opportunity for conversion of some of that vacant land to a campus. So there would be an opportunity for just a visual difference and benefit from the development of a new campus. Because St. Louis is a rich city in history. There has been a lot of residential development in this area, a lot of businesses that have moved into this area. So because of that, there's probably there's an opportunity for hazardous waste cleanup at this location. We just recognize that there have been a lot of businesses over the years, and there would be a coordination to clean that up as well. One of the impacts, similarly to Melville and Fenton, there would be a loss of property tax paid to the city of St. Louis. So it is estimated about $64,000 would be lost payment taxes to the city of St. Louis. And lastly, as far as some of the impact findings that we were identifying with the city of St. Louis, there are some cultural resources within this project area. Down in the southwest boundary, along the southwest boundary, there is the Buster Brown former warehouse building at this location. And then surrounding the perimeter, on the outside there, we have a historic district called St. Louis Place. Both of these are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Because this is a small project area, it is the smallest of the four, those buildings and the Buster Brown warehouse would need to be removed. So there would be that impact at those locations. One last thing that I'd like to recognize, at this site were chosen. We recognize that there would be homes, businesses, and institutions that would require relocation to nearby areas. If you have questions in regards to that, there are city representatives here that can answer questions in regarding the relocation process for that effort. So the fourth location is over on the Illinois side. This is different in that it is undeveloped. It is currently under agricultural production. You do have a stream system within this project boundary. You also have a wetland within this project site. It's about 182 acres. It is in between Scott Air Force Base, the airstrip for that, as well as Mid-America Airport. So we are, as I mentioned earlier, we are working with the Federal Aviation Administration in coordinating whether or not, just coordinating with them on how to develop that project location. And the good thing is that site is 182 acres, so that there is greater flexibility. So there would be impacts to biological resources, there would be impacts to stream resources. What is also on this project location, there is a site that is an archaeological site that is also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So we're, on both the Missouri side as well as the Illinois side, we're coordinating with the two historic, state historic preservation offices. So those are the high-level findings of the draft EIS. We encourage you, if you have any questions following this presentation, to please reach out to the subject matter experts around the room. There are many ways that you can offer comments to us. Again, there are iPads. We do have a court reporter over in the corner. If you don't feel like making remarks today, you have till November 23rd to make these comments. So we appreciate you coming out tonight, and thank you for your comments. Thank you.